Listen and subscribe to the Table of Truth on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and Google Podcasts. Welcome, everybody, to Blerdlines. This is your man, Cam. We are here close to the end of our Expanse journey. We're going to recap episode 5 right before our last episode. With me, as always, is
the other Cam Square, aka the Last Action Negro,
as well as
this is Josh, aka the Caribbean Dark Lord of the Sith, known as Darth Coconut.
Nice.
Oh, man.
And as always,
the professor, the professor got to put on that. You breaking out the professor D. I have nothing to add because Darth Coconut might smite me after that one. It's got me in this grip, man. That was funny.
And so we are back. This is the 5th episode of the Expanse. We only have one more after this. This episode's entitled "Why We Fight." We have a bunch of converging things, but then the main thing, as I was saying before, is Holden be Holdening.
Let me start off. I missed the last episode, and I just didn't realize how much Holden doesn't take in consideration of the other person and their feelings.
He's horribly selfish.
Yeah, I mean, and in this episode, there was a point where, not Alex was the guy that's chilling with Peaches. I can't think of his name right now. Amos was like, there's a point where he's like doing shit that's fucking up, but then he also saves the planet, like he saves the galaxy. I guess that evens out. So
yeah. He saves humanity like 3 times. I guess he could do some dumb shit here and there.
Yeah. Question to the resident expansologist professor: what are those creatures that are just like the Lazarus pit in every beginning episode? Like, I got questions. Like
the Laconia dogs.
Yeah, like obviously there's something tied in, especially from the previous episode 4, when we see a major character that you broke down. And I'm trying to figure out, like, the kid, like, why was she trying to be found by her parents? Why she wasn't spooked by seeing her brother alive and apparently looking a little bit weird.
Why is no one supervising this child?
Yes. Like, seriously. Without trying to give too much spoilers, like, what are these creatures? What is the backstory on these creatures? I didn't know it was more than one. I just thought it was one. Well, we see there's like 3 or 4 of them that come out. What is their purpose? Like, I'm just confused, but I know in the last episode this is all going to tie in somehow. I got a feeling it will be, but it's just like, where are they going with this? Like, can you expand on that a little bit?
Oh, hey, you're muted.
You're muted.
You're muted, bro.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Am I here? Without spoiling what is coming or on the horizon. So I will just recap the 5 scenes that we've had, the cold open. So the thing is, in this society, in this culture, they're all scientists, right? So this is the daughter she's like a prodigy. So she's not approaching these things as fearful of the unknown or the other as much as, okay, I'm seeing scientific wonders before my own eyes. So when for her, the creatures, they have a base knowledge of the fact that humans wouldn't be desirable to these creatures to consume because everything in Laconia evolved differently. So they wouldn't consume us. So there's no need to be afraid of them trying to eat us because it would be deadly to them. So there's that fear gone out the window. So they just, all that remains is the curiosity. So she's just a kid going out exploring. Again, her life is mostly built around science and math and technology and things like that. So when she discovers that, there are these, she had been, when we first see her, you hear her cataloging the different types of Laconian flora and natural life. And so then she encounters the birds. One dies, and she sees the dog. The dog takes the bird and first fixed the drone, which was the first sort of foreshadowing of where this thing was going. Then it fixes the bird. So she learns that these creatures can actually rebuild and rebuild and restore any type of mechanism, whether it be organic or inorganic. If it lived and it stopped working, they can fix it.
That makes sense, because it can fix the drone and then he fixed the little birdie.
Right.
The
So
birdie, okay.
They showed.
I didn't put two together that they fixed the drone. I just thought something else had happened.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
They fixed the drone, and she realized that. Then it brought the bird back, and then she understood it. Now, they didn't see those creatures until the military arrived and activated the stick moons above with the protomolecule. So remember how you had asked me, you had said before on the previous episode, the protomolecule hasn't had any kind of presence on the series. Well, it has. It's just really been more subtle than the way it started, where it was like big in your face. It's moved to the background because at this point, the human characters, some of them have figured out how to actually use it. And so to their advantage, like the little girl. So there's a parallel to what's going on above. The military is figuring out applications of the protomolecule. Down below, she's stumbling into applications of the protomolecule. So I don't know how they're gonna, and I probably just gave away a little bit in terms of knowing that the dogs are obviously connected to the protomolecule and to the ancient alien tech that's left behind on the planet.
Gotcha.
And we've seen this from the protomolecule before, that it has the ability to either restore life, prolong life, or just completely house consciousness.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, I think that's especially just for like that intro part, that kind of gives more context in general.
Yeah.
The other thing too was in this one we see the freaking planetary railguns, which is freaking bananas, by the way. And like legit just like demolished a full-on 8 warships, Martian warships or something like that in a matter of seconds.
Yeah.
And
now
so
this is Martian warships.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm gonna say. So that's the thing that was so crazy, because again, one, it's a railgun, which is already like the best gun in the show, established as the best gun in the show. It's the reason why the Rossi is always like kind of a little bit ahead of everybody else, because their railgun is one of the only ones that's like dope in this galaxy, anyways. But then two, having the railgun on an actual planet and having 6 of them, no less, literally means like everybody else cannot touch these dudes like ever.
Wait, so that's what I was. Indeed, you could probably answer this. Like, I didn't know the railgun was that most like important, because you would think a missile or a warhead would be like the trump card, but it seems like the railgun is like the ultimate weapon in this universe.
Yeah, the railgun is a pure, like almost a battery energy shot. Like it's like boom, like it'll cut through anything. And it also is, I think, and I could be wrong as far as the science goes, because of the energy that it's applying, it doesn't have to, it isn't slowed by the rules of the laws of physics or the laws of physics. So a torpedo can maneuver and all those things, but the fact that it has to work against inertia means that the target can slide by, or do, as we've seen with the Rossi, do different things to avoid that direct contact. With a rail gun, not so much, and specifically these rail guns, because as they examine, these rail guns were not are Martian design, but with a little bit extra.
Yeah,
So
that
you
was the
can
thing that was
probably
kind of cool
guess
too.
where they came
when
from, and they
when
already
said that they were
said
mining
where
the
they
entrance
where
to the
the
ring
they've
gate,
already
I was
said
like,
where
oh, okay. Yeah,
those
that's cool. Yeah, he didn't mine it. He didn't mine it. 6 rail guns is not mining it.
yeah.
Wait. So, was there any indication of these railguns being placed on this planet? This is the first. Okay, where?
In the first episode, Rosenfeld. First episode, Rosenfeld tells Marco that the Laconians have began work on the installations. The second episode, the second time, it was in maybe episode 3 after the fight, after he loses the fight with the Rocinati. There's a report from Medina Station that that confirms that the railguns were complete, because they said that I think the line was, they showed an image of a ship coming through the ring, and it didn't look like any ship that had ever been shown on the show. And that's all I'll say about the ship. And the person said, the Belter said that if this performs like the previous asset, then we're going to have a lot of fun. And I'm pretty sure he was talking about the railguns.
See, I didn't catch that part. Okay.
Yeah. Well, again, some things I pick up on because of I read the book. Now, having no knowledge of that, you have to pay attention to almost everything said and everything shown.
Yeah, that's kind of like the thing I've noticed the most. It's like when I watch the episode twice, that's when I pick up on the second parts. And so then it's like, plus they do a really good job of like really, when they mention something, it's never just mentioned just to be mentioned. Like everything's placed in there for a reason. So if they're saying, oh, Ceres has no water and no food, then Drummer rolls up with a bunch of water and food. They're like, oh, okay. And it kind of adds that aspect of it. I thought the other aspect of it too with Holden too, because again, Holden being the selfish Boy Scout that he is, he goes to Avasarella and basically is on some like, yo, this other thing that's going on happened. We need to let Marcos know. And he's like, bitch, we had a war. We're trying to kill this dude. We're not trying to help him. What are you doing? She's like, one problem at a time.
But then he's one to talk, considering that he just let him live. So
exactly,
right,
exactly. So it's like Holden be Holdening a lot these days.
And she instantly always calls him out on it, because my favorite quote from both the book and the show was when she tells him when she sends him the illest, she's like, and do not stick your dick in the situation, Holden. No, do not stick your dick in the Holden. The situation is fucked as is. And then like just ended the call. And I was like,
the best line in the series.
The best line, because it's those moments like that remind you of who the characters are at their core. Like that's who Avasarala is at her core, and she understands who Holden is at his core. As soon as he gets to that planet and he sees some kind of injustice or big picture thing going on, he's gonna insert himself and he's gonna fuck the whole situation up. Exactly. What it is.
Well,
that's
and
how
also
they got where they are.
And that's how when Bobby was talking to Amos, and he was kind of just like on some, first of all, the scene of Amos coming in drunk with glitter and scratches on his neck, and she was just like, yo, is that glitter? And he's like, yep. Is that scratches? He's like, yep. But I like that in that moment, Bobby playing the role of the conscious, which is Alex, former role. And he was just kind of telling her that, Holden's the one that disarmed the nuke, and she starts laughing because she knows who Holden is, and that makes perfect sense for his character. So that's why she's not even mad. She's just like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. He saw the kid there, blah, blah, blah. He's being his Boy Scout self, as opposed to thinking on the larger term of, oh, I could have killed Marcos and this shit would have been over.
You know what's crazy? They're both right. Holden's right, and Naomi and Amos are right, because it is war. And the son chose a side. Now, what we know, but what the other people don't know on the other side, is that the son is still conflicted. And he still has bouts, especially when he's put on the lesser tier and sees the other side of his this war and his dad's decision making.
Really good stuff for Phillips character Dove.
Yeah, even in the Free Navy itself, Marco is creating victims, and using people. That I think the thing that changed everything for Philip was when he learned that this guy is going to have to live with the fact that not only did he's sitting in a cell for insubordination, and he's the one that planted the bomb that ultimately killed his brother because Marco told him that was the right thing to do. And Philip even didn't agree with leaving them all there. And he really didn't like the idea of sabotaging the station so that these supplies would be gone. No water. Again, that's the ultimate no for belters. Like, you do not mess with the water, the air, and the food. Like, if you do that, you're public enemy number one. That's why they hate the Inner so much. Is because they for decades held that over them as a means of suppression, of oppression.
So let me say this. For the son, you can't be a halfway gangster. You can't at 1 minute be like, "Oh, I'm all about my pops and his movement," but have these conflicted feelings when you see the others. You got to choose.
Yeah,
you got to make a choice.
That's true.
And I think for his character for this season, you got to see that kind of growth through the whole situation. Like, I did everything. I'm a hero. Quote. Get checked by his own friend, kills his friend, feels bad about it. Actually, finally challenges his dad, but then gets bumped down to the basement. Then he learns. Then being in the basement, he's like, "Oh shit, this is like some real consequences for the regular."
Wait. How old is he?
He's still a kid. He's in the
17?
books. He's about, well, the actor is obviously an adult, but in the books he's supposed to be about 16 when it all breaks out, and by about 8, I think close to 18 when it's all said and done. So
he's not hardened. He's not battle hardened yet.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
That's what I was gonna
He's
say.
still a
like,
baby.
The stuff you pointed out, Cam, that's the perspective you gain after when you become an adult and you've experienced quite a bit. For him, it was surface level things that were used to manipulate him. You're a hero. And now he's had to reevaluate what that means. His time with Naomi made him think about that. She wasn't, not that he cared entirely what she thought, but at the same time, that's still his mother. And to see her reviled by his something that he did, and then that allowed him to think about it. You killed billions of people who did not know you, and quite frankly, probably had nothing to do with your beef. But you killed them. And that's, again, that there's no coming back from that. That's a moral event horizon. So he's only a teenager. So he's got a lot to pull himself through, and right now he's not in the best place to do that.
Yeah, but I think they did a really good job in this episode of, I think you were the one who pointed this out for Amos, and it sort of just cascaded for me with the rest of the episode. Each character has a perspective shift in that last episode. Avasarala has a perspective shift. Bobby has a perspective shift. Yep. Holden gets told about himself. I don't know if he's going to change, so I don't know if he has a shift.
Well, it generally has an impact on when he's told about himself. It usually has an impact on his perspective.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But everyone, like Amos had a perspective shift about the whole thing with disarming the nuke. Bobby kind of didn't. She was like, "It's Holden. What are you like? Come on." You can't be surprised, and that if he did it, there was a good, it was an act of conscience. She didn't say that, but that's what she was kind of intimating.
Yeah, and then also she checked Avasarala as well, which she probably kind of needed in terms of she was getting a little too softy even for her, and then and then the last person we haven't talked about is Drummer, which and I will say this for our Star Trek Discovery fans. This is how you deal with someone crying on a show. She has not cried in like 5 seasons. She like teared up when I think Ashford died, and she was like
Mhm.
sighing when Fred Johnson died, which are two mentors. Then when her two of her spouses got killed, she was kind of like, and even this one, she broke up with her other two spouses, and then she finally broke down. Like this actually is like all that pent up freaking aggression and crazy shit. This is like the one moment she finally like broke down after like literally all the shit that she's been through, which is like now it made that scene even more powerful than general.
Well, it's earned.
Yeah.
They worked up to it. They piled a bunch of stuff on the character, and she snapped, which is how people. So people ain't just like you put it perfectly. Everybody's not crying at every twist of the breeze. It's got to be a buildup. It's got to be in realistic terms. Unless you're just hypersensitive, which most people are not. It has to be a buildup of things, and in a television show, it needs to be something you work your way towards.
It has to be earned, because, and then the other thing is you have to build a connection between the audience and the character, right? We've had this connection, and I thought it was very appropriate that, and just really hard when you see that she's avoiding Naomi. And we know a little bit why she's avoiding Naomi, because Naomi, quite frankly, her decision to help Holden and the Rocinati and defy Marco is the beginning of the end of her family. She loses 3 of them from that decision alone. And so we can't know if Naomi reached out to her in between that time. They didn't address that, and it didn't seem like Drummer was upset about it, because realistically they understand the situations that they occupy. There's no time for them to exchange text messages, oh, I'm sorry to hear that, and all that stuff. So and it's not as easy as all that. So when she sees Naomi in the airlock bridge between her ship and Ceres, it was a great moment, because right before that, it was a heartbreaking moment, because that's the first time those two characters who we know are friends and have a great bond and are belters, the 2 belter characters who I think have tried to do the most neutral right thing in terms of going against their own people more than I think Holden has had to, and Amos don't matter. He don't really have no people. His people are his people, not any ethnic or cultural connections. And so seeing Naomi in that moment right after she now just lost the final 2 members of her family, again, it was just perfectly framed, perfectly blocked, because it's a crossway between two a station and the ship. They meet on that bridge, and just to have that moment where a Drummer clearly needs her friend to reaffirm something for her, which is she knows what she has to do. She knows that she has to meet with Abbasarala. She knows that she has to join her ships and her fleet with theirs in order for her to survive. But she does not want to be seen as, again, what Sandrini, and I can't wait till a bullet goes through her head, said when she goes, Drummer, how do you feel being the Ender's lapdog? It's like, what? I just brought you food. What are you talking about? Marco took it away. What are you talking about? But I like that, because it still shows that there's not one way of thinking in these people, no matter if you're on Marco's side or you're indifferent to Marco, whether you on Drummer's side or you're indifferent to Drummer. Like, there's so many complexions of this conflict, of this narrative, and you see it in all of the characters, even the ones that don't even matter as much in the grand scheme, like Sandrini.
Yeah, exactly.
Quick question before we move on. Can you explain the relationship between like Drummer and like Joseph and Michio? Like, because I was like, were they once lovers, or like, how does this work? In
polyamorous,
they had a polyamorous relationship.
Yeah, they're a polyamorous marriage. They were that entire
4, right?
I think in season 5 there was 1, 2,
It's like 4, right?
3,
2,
4, 5.
5 actually.
Yeah, there's 5 including drummer. So they're all her spouses.
Yeah, that's what it was. And then when 2 of them got killed in the battle, 1 got spaced, and then she was gonna drop off, meet you with the other dude, but then she saved the other dude, which got his arm chopped off, and then they stayed on series. So yeah, she went from 5 to 0.
2 left her. 2 left her.
Yeah, they went to Marco.
Yep, that's right.
Well, they didn't say if they went to Marco or not. I don't think they have they left that open-ended, whether they did not want to cross him because they knew the consequences.
But I thought they didn't want to cross him, and their reasoning was, their thought process was, if we join up, we'll be good.
Well, yeah, but they also knew that if they joined up, and if they didn't join up, eventually he was going to send someone to take them out to kill them and take their ships and what they have. So they were more so, they didn't disagree with Naomi in terms of, or even that agree with Marco with what he did with as far as dropping the rocks and all that stuff. But they're belters, so they don't have any reason to feel bad for it. And then the other thing is they knew, again, because he had exchanged the hostage thing, that if they defied him at that point, it meant that Serge, her husband, on the ship with Marco, who was alone by himself, would be killed. Yeah, and I think that is what made the two see, okay, when it comes down to it, if it's choosing between Naomi and the Rocinante, we probably gonna get the short end of the stick. Like, that was a clear example right there.
That's a good point. And they weren't wrong, actually.
Yeah, thanks for clearing that up, because I was just like, I felt like there was some poly thing going on, but I didn't catch it. Yeah, but that's the culture of the belters and whatnot. So,
well, that's just the kind. Well, yeah, because I would say there are poly relationships on Earth in that time, and it's just really there aren't any kind of restrictions on marriage anymore in that world.
Yeah, it's like less. That's why I was like, I think they did a good job of showing it as just being a thing within this world, as opposed to anything taboo or weird or whatever. Which is like, this is what it is, and then they kind of showed that aspect of it.
Yeah, she's not the only poly in the story. She's not the only the only one that you've seen on the show. But in that world, there's like as many poly spouses and relationships as there are.
And so then to wrap everything up, I would say the ending of it with Avasarala meeting Drummer on series, coming off of her ship, because again, like, she's like the top person of all of the Enners, which is kind of crazy. And she comes down and meets her, and they have a face-to-face. And I thought it was a dope moment just because, one, you have 2 characters that are obviously well respected on both sides. Both of them have a lot of power. And then they're also understanding of each other. One, can't really trust you, but at the same time, both have the same enemies. So we got to trust each other a little bit. But then also at the same time, neither person, by doing this alliance, looks weak. It actually just strengthens both of them.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, the optics of it is that when Drummer presents her terms in front of her own people, Avasarala agrees to it, which gives the Belters the belief that, we're still in charge of our own way. We're doing things, even though we're trying to go for a greater good. Avasarala, who's been hardened through 5 seasons of losing her husband, making bad decisions, rushing in, has learned like to cede some of this power to understand, to get to the greater good. Because she understands, like, her side doesn't really want the Enners to have control, but she's learned through experience, in order to get the work to the greater goal, she has to concede some of this power and join forces, because she was the one that made that choice to rush in before and got half her fleet destroyed. You know what I'm saying? This is why she made that conscious decision to be like, nah, I'm not running in like last time. But she also questioned it, because she's like, well, damn, am I getting too soft? Like, you know what I'm saying? So there's that, like, gamut of decision making that she has to struggle with. Whereas right now, the pillar of making sense has been her bodyguard, in the sense, telling her, like, yo, man up. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you made a mistake, but let's not fall on our laurels and forget why we're here. Like, yeah, you're going to make mistakes. That's the part of being the boss, which you are. But again, you keep moving forward. We still fight. Yeah. That's been like a common theme the last few episodes with a few different characters, even with Amos, Avasarala, Holden, Naomi, shit, even the son, like
I
he
mean,
keep
yeah,
fighting
that
for
last
it.
episode literally is titled "Why We
Why we
Fight."
fight? Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
we fight?
And it's kind of cool because they keep that with each one of the characters, so just to kind of remind them of why they're there in the first place. And even when Amos had his like conscious slight doubt, he still had someone else to kind of pull him back to where he needs to be, just to make sure that he wouldn't be Amos.
But I mean, Amos is a great perspective character. Like he's always he always if like he's almost like the voice of the viewer in a sense, because every time there's a reason to doubt, every time there's a reason to be like, well, I could go this way, but and the average person might even go this way, but I have my friends to sort of yank me back and sort of keep me on the straight and narrow. But just to pivot back to the scene with Avasarala and Drummer, like just the aesthetic of two minority women who are probably arguably the most powerful women on that show was just a great visual. Like the way they framed it, the way they blocked it, the way the just how they situated it in terms of just doing it in front of all the belters, the most oppressed people on the show. It was just there were so many things that made that scene work and resonate in such a great way. It was just great television.
So are you saying it's a better girl power scene than the end game?
Yeah, I want to say yes, because
Well,
I
no,
want to say that's the first time those two characters meet on screen.
It is.
Yeah, exactly. I would say that one thing that. Oh, go ahead, James.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say the one thing that the show does really well is like there's no oversimplification of this is a strong woman character. It's just like this character is dope,
right?
And she's a woman.
And
all right, so
we just get that through their thick skulls that you don't need to make it, a black character or a female character or this character or that. Just write the damn character.
Yep, make good characters and you can do it.
Yeah, just make good characters and you'll be fine.
So I'm gonna wrap. We'll wrap it here. We only got one episode left. I'm gonna go to D'Angelo. What's the? They only got about 90 minutes left of the show.
Mm-hmm.
We know that they're probably gonna do something more, but we're close to like landing the plane. They pretty much landed it, but I think is there anything else left that you think that you're curious to see if they pull out?
No, based on what they've set up and where they're going, I think all things come to a head in this last episode. They've built the right way. The storylines that they could pull from the book, they did it in a great way that allowed them to take everything they needed without making it so much or convoluted, and also with keeping it moving forward. The storyline with the drummer and the stealing Marco, the stuff from Marco, that was played out over several chapters, like just because of the fact that she wasn't just doing that, she was stealing it, and she was also doing some piracy and all that stuff. But all of that to say, I think it's coming together real nicely. I don't want to say anything that might be a potential spoiler. So I'll just say the one thing that I'm looking most forward to is how they reconcile what they've already established on the show for Laconia. That's about it in the Laconian storyline. That's about the only thing that I think right now, if I were someone who had not read the books, I would be wondering what's going on.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. All right. Well, we'll end it there. We got one more episode left, fellas. Once again, always enlightening. Yeah, we got one more. I think what D'Angelo was saying, it might be like a 90-minute episode, so it might be dope. But yeah, you'll catch our reactions, and this is Blerdlines Expanse recap episode 5, and we are out. Peace.